I was going to say it's Friday because people might be watching this on Friday because I'm going to put it on YouTube right away after this. Um,
Mm.
and it'll go live tomorrow. But I think what I'm going to say is Happy New Year, everyone. Because I know that there are some people who are watching this who might already be in 2021. You are living in the future.
Yeah.
And there are people who are just kind of celebrating New Year's Eve in their own way. Welcome to...
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a glass of water and a glass of strawberry milk.
Ooh.
Yeah, Steve's fancy. But welcome to the wrap up, but the 2020 wrap up.
Hey.
I think that's what we're doing.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, see. Yeah, so you'll notice that we only have 4 people this time. We've got my amazing co-hosts, Agatha and Steve. And then, of course, we have Emma.
And guest.
Look, I think 2020 was... we'll start by saying this. 2020 was a really, really shitty year.
It was a year, yeah.
A lot of people, we're living in the middle of a global pandemic, something most of us might not have even anticipated ever happening in our lifetime. We are living in the middle of a global pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs, lost loved ones. We are seeing racial inequality around the world has always been a thing. But 2020, we started to see people take action against it. 2020, we started seeing people documenting it. 2020, we started seeing people emboldened to share their experiences. But on the flip side, we also saw people being emboldened to act, let their hate out. So 2020 has been a rough year, but I think one of the things that kind of, kept me going through 2020 was Asians Represent. And I know that, I'm very fortunate. I am in a very fortunate situation because my life actually improved because of the pandemic. I got closer with my family. I was able to really think about my values and what was important to me. I didn't lose my job. And because of the pandemic, we were able to do so much more with Asians Represent. Literally, was it 2.5 years ago, Agatha and I went to this bubble tea shop on Yonge Street. It was what's the one with the orange logo, Agatha?
Coco.
Okay. I wanted to say Coco, and I was like,
shout out to Coco.
Shout out to Coco.
Totally sponsored.
Totally.
Yeah.
Look. If a bubble tea joint wants to sponsor us, I'll drink bubble tea on every single stream.
Honestly, they really should give us money for considering how much we talk about Coco specifically.
So literally every time we kind of think about Asians Represent, we talk about Coco.
It's true.
But yeah, I remember Agatha and I, we met at Breakout Con. And yeah, we met.
Wait, oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, we met at Breakout Con because I bought you dinner.
You did.
I went out and I bought everyone a whole bunch of people dinners because people were working, and I was like, I'll go grab food. And I went and grabbed everyone food, and we started talking. And you sent me a message on Facebook shortly after, and you were like, yo, I know that you have this podcast. I had a podcast before Asians Represent called Curiosity in Focus, and it's still online. You can find it. And so I kind of knew a little bit about podcasting. And you were like, I want to start a podcast, like a TTRPG podcast. But you were like, I don't really know what I want to do or how to do it.
I was like, yo, I need I need all of the expertise. I only have an idea. This is my pitch.
You were like, I want to do Asian stuff in TTRPGs. And I was like,
I guess it was I only play Dungeons and Dragons. That's all I know.
but
expand my horizons.
Well, you started with D&D, didn't you? Or was it Pathfinder?
I don't remember. It was one of those two.
Because I remember you said that you played it with your with Nathaniel's family.
Yes,
I forget.
I did.
It was a D&D or Pathfinder. It was one of those.
Yes, I played that. I played D&D with so his dad ran it for us. That was one. And then I also played Pathfinder, but they were around the same time, so I don't remember. I played Pathfinder with like this like group of church people that at a church that I was visiting, and then they were talking, and then they talked about like, oh yeah, role-playing games, and I was like, role-playing games, and they were like, oh, want to play with us? Person we've met like twice.
Here's this Excel spreadsheet, and then they had your character sheet.
Well, I was a gnome bard in it because they were like, we need a bard and you're going to be a gnome. And I was like, oh, okay.
Cool.
Cool, yeah.
I'm a gnome bard, I guess. But yeah, you had this idea and
I did.
You pitched it to me. I remember there were some things about it because you were like, hey, I know this person. They're not Asian, but they can like kind of help out and like kind of be on air and talk to the white creators. And I was like, no, we can't do that.
I remember. Yeah, I talked to her too, and she was like, "No, you can't do that if you want to make this an Asian show." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's true.
That's true, right?"
She took a good step to be like, "Agatha, don't do this."
She is a great ally. She's a great ally.
She is amazing.
Shout out to Rach +1 Forward podcast.
Rach Shalky. Yeah. She put the kibosh to what was a bad idea.
What was a bad idea?
But bad idea.
Yeah. And I was like, I'll do this with you. But if there's no non-Asian people on production, because it's got to be an Asian thing. And so we went to Coco and we talked about it and we had this idea. And I was like, okay, so how do I not do a lot of work in having to like host and do all of this stuff? It's like, well, what if we
you failed at that?
Yeah, I know. Well, no, I could be. Wow. I could be doing more work. And
no.
Well, because we're not. So I was
if
like,
someone
okay,
calls you out for doing too much work, and your response is, "I could do more."
No.
I feel like you missed the point.
I could.
I get what you mean.
I know what you're saying.
I could be doing more work, but we decided to go with a network. And so we were like, okay, we only know 2. So it wasn't really a hard decision. We were like, okay, is it going to be the gauntlet or is it going to be one shot? And like, we could have gone with either of them because they're both great. But I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I had met James before, and I hadn't met Jason at that point yet, if I remember correctly. And I was like, well, I've met this one person, so I guess I'll message him on Facebook because I had him on Facebook. And so we were at Coco. I sent him a message. I was like, hey, James, I have this podcast idea. Me and like my friend Agatha want to do this thing. And he was like, yes, let's do it. And here we are.
The rest was history.
Oh.
Here we are, like 2.5 years later. We started off by doing like one episode a month. We were like, that's it, one episode a month. And we sat down and we interviewed people, and it was cool.
Yeah.
It's wild that this is what it is now.
Right? And then we were like, you know what we're going to do?
Amazing.
We're going to expand. We'll do a bonus episode a month.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's really amazing, like talking to other people about it and then talking about all the things that go on. And I especially feel just so honored to be here still, and I don't know, being able to see the way that expands, because like I'm not a part of a lot of what made Asians Represent what it is today. Like all of the stream stuff started with Steve and Daniel. Like you two doing the Asians Read is really what got us big, got us an Emmy. But like it kind of, it's true. And so for me, it's just like, wow. Like, and then thinking back to that time when I don't remember who I was talking to. And I was like, I wish there was a podcast where Asian people talked about these Asian games. And then seeing it now, just like,
because it was
now there's a wrap up.
It was just you and I sitting at my dining room table talking. And like trying to figure out how to like talk to other people remotely. And we were like, okay, we only have the tech. I don't know how to do this remotely. Let's just have people come in person. And we were only doing Toronto people for a while. And then we started to do the bonus episodes, which in hindsight was a bad idea because it messed up the numbering of the episodes. So I just released episode 25 of the podcast, which was the Kara Tour number 3, but we've uploaded like 50 or 60 podcast episodes, so it looks kind of strange on the feed.
Yes.
So that's my biggest regret of Asians Represent, is not numbering the bonus episodes properly. I guess I could go back. Nah, I'm not gonna do that.
But like, if that's the thing that you regret and there's nothing else, I'd say that's incredibly good.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you don't like. Wow, Emma, you're so smart.
I know, big brain.
Okay, well, no. Here's I the reason why I don't have a lot of regrets with Asians Represent is because, like, Agatha, you and I, we went really slowly. Like, we only surrounded ourselves with people we trust and people we respect and people who we thought would challenge us.
And with that, I really want to give props to you, Daniel, because pretty much our whole team was slowly, like, you would be like, "Oh, come here and join our team."
Hey, Steve, you strange cosplayer, come here.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Amar. Join us. Oh, you like me on our show? Why don't you join our team?
You have been selected.
Do you know how I met Jade? Did I ever tell you
No.
how I met Jade?
Wait, I feel like you did, but I don't remember anymore.
I definitely
so
don't
why
know
don't
the
we
story.
share with
You don't know the story, Steve?
I definitely do not know the story.
Oh, nice.
I'm sure Jade won't mind. I'll tell it. It's nothing. It's not. I met,
Oh, you're doing that thing where you're like, "Oh, did I tell you about this thing? I have it. Let me save it." Like, which is fine.
Hashtag,
Just letting you know that
hashtag content. You want to
hashtag content. Fine.
Keep them coming.
Fine.
I met Jade at Gen Con 2018. I remember the exact room where I met Jade. I know exactly what I was doing when I met Jade. I met Jade at Gen Con 2018. I was volunteering for Magpie Games, so they would pay for my badge. And I met Jade in the Magpie room. And Jade had like DM'd me on Twitter and be like, "Hey, like, I really want to meet you. I like your podcast." And I was like, "Wait, we just announced Asians Represent. We haven't put anything out yet." She was like, No. I like Curiosity and Focus." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, I was like, "Cool, people listen to this." And so I was like, "Oh, I'm in this room. I'll meet you here." And Jade's like, Cool. I'll be there. I'm wearing a PlayStation logo hat. And Jade like met me in the room, and she's like, she was like, I'm a really big fan of your podcast. I really appreciate your podcast because, I had to spend the holidays away from family and I just listened to your voice. And I was like, we gonna be friends because I think you're awesome. And we started talking. I was like, what do you do? And Jade was like, I designed escape games. I'm actually from Toronto. And I was like, what?
Hey.
And then literally after Gen Con, I was like, we got to get Jade to, join us for Asians Represent as a guest.
Join us for
Well, no, actually, after that,
Join us.
after that, I had Jade on as Curiosity and Focus a month later.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I remember where we had the conversation to bring Jade onto Asians Represent because we were in my car. Agatha, remember we went to do Jade's escape room at Casa Loma.
Oh, yeah.
And it was hella cool.
It was heckin' amazing.
It was.
I will say, our team sucked.
Our team's like,
Do you
you and I
remember
did
that?
all the work.
We did.
We did this escape game. And
But there was strangers.
remember there was this,
they were
like-
so bad.
there was this white couple, and there was this lady, and she was just like,
no hate towards.
There's not. I'll be descriptive, but there was this one person who was just like, I know it. It's gonna be this. It's gonna be, and it's just wrong every single time. And Agatha and I were just like, okay, we're gonna carry everybody.
And wasn't it like you were trying to put something away, and then she took a card, and then you couldn't. Anyway, sorry.
Anyways,
So Jade.
We were in the car
funny.
after, and we were like, yo, Jade, you gotta join us for Asians Represent. And we.
Oh, I remember that now. Yeah.
And we had this conversation in the Casa Loma parking lot.
Yeah, we did. It was sus. It
was real sketchy. It was real sketchy because it was dark outside, and we were just sitting, the three of us in a car.
Yeah, we were like, all right. So what do we think?
What are we thinking? You want to join this? And then we added Amar, and we added Amar at the Breakout Con 2018 was when we had Amar, and then we added Jade, and then we started Dungeons into Asians, and I think Dungeons into Asians gave us a lot of initial momentum because there was like no Asian D&D show.
D&D.
This was after we had added Steve after Breakout Con
Yes.
2019.
Yes.
When Steve was literally the only person at the con who wouldn't cosplay. And like Steve brought this like confidence and this energy, and I was like, yo, I fucking love this guy.
Yeah, Steve is just adorable. Like I feel like it's so cute. Steve brought us the adorable energy.
And it was at that exact same con when I met Kiana for the first time too. And I have a picture of Kiana and I holding out our arms at a table because we both have D20 tattoos.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then we started Dungeons into Asians, and then that kind of, people started listening to us. We got our first Emmy nomination, and then then COVID hit. We stopped doing Dungeons into Asians because literally everything we were doing was in person. And then we were like, okay, we got to do something. And Jade had constantly been like, yo, we got to stream. Yo, we got to stream. Because we need to have our faces out there too.
We have to actually represent.
We had to actually represent. It's one thing to have our voices out there, but video, live streaming is where we need to move next. And Jade was just like so insistent on us doing that, and we just never did. Because like we really didn't know how. And so I started streaming on my own just for fun. For like literally like I was streaming, and when I started streaming I had like one audience, one person watching me, and it was Peter, our mod, and that's how I became friends with Peter.
Aww.
Yeah, and it's like every time I would
I
stream,
love all these stories.
don't tell Peter, but every time I would stream, it was like I'm just hanging out with my friend Peter.
Yep.
And then
Amazing.
One time, Tanya DePass raided me, with like 300 people.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Surprise.
And so I was like, okay, I learned a little bit about streaming. I learned how to like use Streamlabs and everything like that. And then I don't know whose idea it was, Steve. Was it your idea or my idea to read Oriental Adventures? I feel like it came from a tweet.
You made a shit tweet where you're just like, should I read Oriental Adventures like live? And people were like, 1,400 likes, 100 retweets. Everyone was like, yes, do it. And you're like, well, I assume in your mind you're like, I don't want to do this alone.
Oh yeah, I don't want to read that shit alone.
When you invited me to do the L5R, I went and watched the Oriental Adventures one. And the first episode, have you rewatched that?
No.
Where it's just like, we're doing this thing now. How are we going to do this? And it picked up energy and momentum as it went.
I think it's
But
because
the first
we
few
started
episodes,
adding
you're
people.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I had come to the stream with some streaming experience. Like I had done a couple of my own like actual play shows and whatnot, and I had done some video editing. So I had that experience of kind of being on camera. But now I was in this capacity where I wasn't just, day drinking and playing Dungeons and Dragons. I was actually like doing work, like actual work that I cared about. Not that I didn't care about groups, but like work that I thought that had like a very large impact, or could. That was a very big change for me, and I loved it.
And
It felt really great.
That shit blew up.
Yeah, and there's some reflection on how it blew up and kind of learnings I took away from a lot of the feedback that we got.
Feedback, certainly. We certainly got a lot of
But
feedback.
before I get into that, I pulled up the message, the message that started it all. So I don't think I've ever shared this with you, Agatha, but
Is this the message I sent you?
Yeah, on May
Facebook?
17th on Twitter, actually, because you didn't have me on Facebook at the time.
Oh, wow.
So on May 17th, 2019, Daniel messages me, hey, if I told you we were playing a D&D series with an all-Asian cast, would you be interested in joining? And I replied, fuck yes. Fuck yes. And his
You said
reply
fuck yes
was,
twice.
yeah, I said fuck yes twice. And then Daniel replied, just the response I wanted. And you're talking about like that energy and stuff. And that was some of the feedback I initially got from when I was like kind of like sharing with my own groups. People's like, hey, I'm on this new podcast, and you know, do I sound okay? Like, can I improve anyway? They're like, you bring such amazing energy to everything you do. So shout out to all my friends, just kind of being like supporting me and my support networks. They're like,
Aw, Steve.
Yo,
stop,
I'm looking. I want to
stop sweating it, and just like
Have fun.
keep being.
Oh my god,
just like
Steve.
it.
We our message history on Twitter is really not that long.
It is not. It's not.
Oh my god.
It's true.
That's the like how it started and how it's going.
Yeah.
That's the two images right there.
The energy, I definitely agree with all of your friends.
Thank you.
It's sweet and energizing.
Oh, dude, I was in LA when I sent you that.
Yeah.
I was at D&D
Oh,
Live.
remember? Oh, that was when you had
That's
the
so
call with
funny.
Amar.
That's what I called Amar on the phone and racked up a huge bill.
Yeah.
Even the way I present my energy and like how much gusto I have when I do that, like does come back to like a lot of kind of oppression growing up, because it was very easy for me to be quiet, don't go to parties, study at home, quietly do your schoolwork and whatnot. And I repress a lot of like this outgoing nature, this outgoing energy, this like well that I had, because I felt like that was the way I was supposed to be. It was only in university and college that I really began like exploring what it meant to like just be open and free about who I am. And then now I get to be on the Asian Represent platform saying that little boy who was repressed like that, that's not an uncommon story. I'm sure a lot of people out there feel that. So now that I get to put my face and my energy out there, like I am very thankful and understand that I hope there's at least one other person listening at some point in time who's like, wow, I could follow in those same footsteps and just feel better about myself.
Yeah, I mean, like, Emma, you knew me before I started podcasting, before I started doing any of this, and I feel like I'm so different now than I was back in 2012.
Yeah. Well, I remember when we met that you said I was the first person who didn't openly judge you for being into comics and RPG
Yeah.
and some of these other things. And even if I didn't know what you were talking about, I'd happily listen. I was like, yeah, because I'm into nerd stuff too. Like, just go for it. And you're like, oh.
Oh, I have nerd friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. This thing is just, it's so crazy because after we started streaming, yeah, there was like a lot of angry white people. But there were so many people who were like, yo, I feel so seen. Thank you for articulating how I'm feeling about this. Thank you for standing up, and thank you for getting this conversation started. And, you know, I learned a lot. I think one of the biggest things I learned, Steve, from the early Oriental Adventures days, and it's crazy to say the early days, that was like literally like earlier this year.
Yeah, less than half a year ago.
Less than half.
Yeah, it is
more
pretty
than
wild.
half a year ago. I think more than
So
half a year ago.
wild.
But like, I think the biggest thing that I learned was, you know, we originally started by just like shitting on Oriental Adventures, and I was like, and now I look back and I'm like, yeah, that's not the way. I'm like, now it's like, you know, it's fun to make jokes, and like, look, our last Kara Tour stream was just like all jokes. Yeah. Also because that shit's hilarious.
It's hard not to.
It's goofy.
Just laugh
It's
through
goofy.
that, yeah.
But I think the thing we were initially missing was what the podcast that Agatha and I have been doing had always had. And that was that educational side to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think right now we're at this like junction where the stream and the podcast have kindly met in the middle, where they are unified in our vision, and it's to educate, empower, and foster a community and get conversations started. And I'm just like so happy that you said fuck yes to my first DM. I slid into your DMs.
It happens.
It happened because the DM and DM Steve is not Dungeon Master. It's DM, direct message.
yeah.
Slide into the DMs. I'm so happy that you responded to that. Agatha, I'm so happy you reached out to me. Right? And like, Emma, I'm so happy that you said yes to joining like the L5R stream because it was the most random thing because you and I kind of like fell out of touch for a bit.
I had probably hadn't had a message from you for over a year. And then you're like, hey, have you heard of L5R? You want to do this thing?
Well, like, look, one of the things was like, I've kind of been avoiding, like that part of my life.
And that's fair. Like,
after I dropped out of
relatively
school.
recent. We have the same supervisor. I represent a phase of your life, and I get that.
And it was just like, but I'm so happy that I messaged you about that because, A, like, we talk all the time again. And it's wonderful, and it's like nothing's changed. And B, like, I get to introduce all of my friends to you because I think you're awesome.
Well, thank you.
and then like
I've met fantastic people through this, and probably the most Asian diaspora people I've ever met in my entire life.
And like
in the span of a few months.
Right? And if we hadn't done Oriental Adventures, we would have never met Jeremy.
It's true. It's true. And that was the first time I got interviewed for like an article for like work I was doing that wasn't like ever. My work has never been worthy of an interview.
Did you see that our Weaving Asian Stories stream was in Wired?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Holy
your tweet about it.
Holy moly. I didn't realize that. That's pretty huge.
So that's something to be
big.
proud of. Like we worked so hard. And so like we never would have met like Jeremy, and in not talking about L5R and not deciding to do L5R and putting out that tweet that was like, which one should we read next? I would have never met Monty. Would have never met Sar. If we hadn't done that first stream, we would have never met Sar. And had we not done all of these streams, we would have never had this Discord community that we have.
I wouldn't have joined the Discord if you hadn't invited me to L5R.
Yeah, well, because like it's so random, right?
When did the Discord start?
I can find the exact day it started because
it was roughly around the end of Oriental Adventures.
Okay. I feel like this stuff has been around forever now, but it really hasn't. I guess 2020 also feels like multiple years long.
Mm-hmm.
It was the episode of, I'm pretty sure it was episode 5. Yep, it was after episode 5 of Oriental Adventures. So in April.
Wow.
we because we talked about that. So that's episode 5 of Asians Read Oriental Adventures. And at the end of it, people were asking us in the chat if we had a Discord community. And I was like, oh shit, we don't. And Pam was like, I know how to do this.
Yeah, Pam.
And Pam is really the reason why this Discord community exists. Because Steve and I were like, and Ajay was also there too. And we were like, I don't know what is this me 6 thing? And Pam was like, I got this, fam.
Pam is amazing.
Yo, Pam is incredible. Pam's going to be on the stream tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this. Yeah.
Tomorrow is quite the lineup. We have Kiana, Pam, and Jamie. I just want to learn more from Jamie because Jamie's new to me.
Jamie's sick.
Thanks to you, Agatha. But Asians Represent has come a long way. I never would have thought that we would have been nominated, let alone win a gold Emmy. And that Emmy is shared with everyone who's been on the show, be it the podcast, the stream. Like
it's funny because my imposter syndrome still has that Emmy in the tote bag you gave me sitting underneath my desk because I'm not.
It's still there. Pull it out.
I should pull it out. I should pull it out and like present it to the world and like look at it every day.
Display it in the back.
But I should put it like right here. I should put it right here.
You should.
Agreed.
I
But
don't know
you know
where
what?
mine is.
I think that maybe after this I'll confront my imposter syndrome and take a look at it, because
Yeah.
I still
That's
have
definitely
Amar's
hard.
and I still have Jade's. But like, yeah, that Any is shared with so many people. I'm actually a little bummed we didn't get to do it in person because I picked the perfect victory song.
Yeah.
I picked the perfect victory song.
You did.
It's called "Testify" by Aquafina.
Shout out to Aquafina.
Shout out to Aquafina. Steve looks it up.
No, said testifying, I got really excited because I'm like, yo, we're gonna pick a Rage Against the Machine song.
No,
yeah,
it's got to be Asian.
yeah,
Asian.
but
So I picked out an
I love
Aquafina song.
I love Rage.
I do too.
I do as well. Yeah.
But I'm sad we didn't get to do that in person. Okay, so I want to introduce a little bit more structure into this.
Oh yeah, I guess
yeah.
we've been just shooting the ship for 50 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've just been shooting the shit.
I was like, what? We haven't started yet?
No, we've been starting. Like, look, I love just like shooting the shit here. I love that we all feel comfortable enough. Like, I love that we all disagree with each other. Like, I love how Agatha and I had a disagreement at the beginning of the stream.
I think this I think is a strength of our co-hosting, because we, at least in the beginning, we used to disagree a lot, and I feel like that also brought an energy to the podcast.
If you listen to Early Asians Represent, it's just being like, fuck you, Daniel. Fuck you, Agatha.
Agatha and Daniel argue while the guest sits there quietly.
Oh gosh. Really bring that energy, guys. No, but yeah, it's true. Disagreement is good. Having different opinions is better.
Absolutely. And I think it's the strength of Asians Represent. Like, Steve and I disagree a lot on stream.
At first, I was kind of like, is that okay? Am I allowed to do that? And I just fucking went for it. And it turned out that like that was good. It was very healthy, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it shows that we are, we all have very nuanced opinions when it comes to these issues we're talking about. I think we also approach them in very different ways. Like, Steve, I am certain that you are more compassionate than I am. I think I'm the least compassionate member of the Asians Represent crew. And then that's just who I am.
Is this where we disagree?
No,
this is a weird competition.
Is
I
this
don't
where
know.
we do
No,
like
but
personality tests?
But what I'm trying to say is that like we are all very different people. And
No, that's fair.
I think those differences make our ultimate message of Asian empowerment, uplifting other creators. I think it makes it even stronger, right? I also think this show would suck if we just agreed on everything.
It would be weird and suspicious.
Yeah.
Really suspicious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think our conversations, I think the conclusions that we come to during our streams wouldn't be as impactful if I was just like, yeah, this is problematic because of this. And if somebody like Jeremy hadn't been like, because Jeremy brought this up a couple times during Alpha, and is like, well, Jeremy's like, well, I'm mixed. What about that perspective? And I was like, I didn't think about that. And so like we together, and like you too, Emma, and we together come to an even better response. But anyways, I want to, and I know I think
Q&A.
Do you want to do Q&A, or I was gonna do like reflective? I was gonna ask like, well, what was your favorite moment of 2020?
Oh, like gaming moment or just life moment?
It could be life moment, could be gaming moment. I was gonna ask like, what was your favorite TTRPG that you played in 2020? But we already know the answer for Emma because Emma only played one.
Only played one. And it was a few days ago, and it was fun.
We even have a new Discord channel called Dungeons and More Asians.
More Asians. Yeah.
But yeah, like I want to start by asking, what are, within Asians Represent, or within the D&D space, or within the gaming space in general, like, what is your favorite moment of 2020? Steve always
volunteers first. Always volunteer first. I'm going to ignore your question and reflect on my most meaningful 2020 experience.
That's a part of the question.
I volunteer to ignore your question.
But I don't know if you recall this, but in 2019, at the end of 2019, I suffered a really bad sports injury. I couldn't walk, and I couldn't walk for half a year, and my physio took the rest of the year as well. So a full 12 months of physio and whatnot. It was very difficult. If you go back and rewatch or re-listen to Dungeons and Asians, you'll see that I had a line around permanent disability, and that is very much the reason. I had a sports injury and I could not deal with it, and it was very difficult for me. But it was kind of around the pandemic, actually, right around when the pandemic happened. I had just begun traveling again. I'd gone on a flight. I was walking on my own with my crutches, and I was ambulating more or less how I needed to. And I was even running again, which I never thought I could do again. So I was running without any support, and that was really, really meaningful. So my biggest shout out for 2020 was myself understanding and coming to terms with my physical limitations now that I have this injury, what my new limits are, and how I can push those limits. This has been a very spiritual, and I use that very purposefully, very spiritual experience for me, because it has connected me very much with my mind, my body, obviously, and my spirit, and how they have to now connect given new constraints.
I remember when you tweeted, pretty sure it was a tweet. Yeah, it wasn't Instagram. When you tweeted, I just ran my first 5K. Do you remember?
I do.
I remember you tweeted that, and because you were like, I couldn't run this before, and you were like, I don't care if it was slow. All I care about is that I ran this 5K.
I was listening to Reply All. It was in a hotel in Kennesaw, Georgia.
And this is why Jeremy thought that you and I had known each other for over a decade.
Yeah.
Emma, Agatha, do you have a moment, or would you like me to go?
I will go.
Yeah.
For me, I think one of I don't know if it's my favorite moment, but most meaningful time was actually, so the beginning of this year was very hard for me. Actually, that was before COVID hit. My anxiety was not going very well. I was having trouble with my medication. So it was very rough, and everyone, like Daniel and Steve and Amar would.
There we go. Sorry, tech thing.
LG.
No, we good.
Yeah. Wait, was that on, or was that?
No, you're good. You're good. Sorry.
Cool. And so it was really rough for me. And for a while I was just like, health-wise, I was just not doing well. And I feel like one of the moments that I remember the most was actually driving back from recording an episode and just feeling so ill that I had to stop at the side of the road and just like put my head to the steering wheel, because I was like, if I don't take a break, I'm going to throw up. But then like listening to what we recorded later and being like, I sounded normal. And sometimes like I feel like performative, like the fake it till you make it, there is a kind of power in it. And I'm not saying, like, oh, you should just pretend that you're okay or whatever. But for me, like, it was actually very helpful that when I felt like my life was not okay, but there was one part of it that I could still control in a way. And that was the podcast. So for me, there's something that always stayed with me from that, and I did not throw up. That one time. So I just so I think for me, like the most meaningful moment, and that has to do with the podcast, that has to do with gaming, was that time. And that was like what I remember the most from 2020. Also, we got cats, and they're amazing. They also made poop mountains in the house, but that's another.
The cats do.
Cats. Turns out they poop. No, yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah, 2020 ups and downs. What about you, Emma?
2020 has seemed super long, and apart from, I would say like the highlight of 2020 has been joining and being part of this Asians Represent community.
I mean,
because like I said, first time I've ever like consistently and easily been able to find other Asian and Asian diaspora people so consistently, despite living in Toronto. And, you know, I grew up in a small town where my sister, my dad, and I were like the Asian people. And we were all just called Chinese because what other Asian people exist, you know? So being able to do this has been wonderful. And I also have people to play video games with again.
except that Steve just plays Mulan all the time.
Mulan.
Mulan.
Yeah.
I mean,
it makes a huge difference.
Zero shame. Zero
Yeah,
shame.
do it. I love it. The enthusiasm, and also never have to wonder what you're going to do. It's going to be Mulan.
Ting, Amber, and I
Yeah.
played, I think, yesterday, and we got like swept 2 games in a row. It was really, we didn't do very well.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to redeem ourselves.
Yeah. But yeah, so this year I think would have been a lot more difficult because I came into this community right at the time when it was like, oh, this COVID stuff isn't going to let up. It's not going to go away. And trying to keep up with the people that I would normally talk to all the time. But when you're not in your like office space or within the university, the archaeologists are really close. And meeting a whole bunch of new people and yeah, being able to play together and talk about Asian stuff without having to explain a lot or
Yeah.
give a lot of background or like have to tell personal stories and just have people understand is like 100% amazing.
You know what's crazy? I feel, you know, talking about Asian stuff and like history and archaeology and stuff like that, I feel more heard and more understood talking about that on Asians Represent and in our server than I ever did in academia. Because I think the vast majority of our colleagues who are studying this stuff aren't Asian.
No, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
And I think the only person who like, you know, like I really enjoyed like talking to about non-academic stuff was like consistently you. And we had lots of trips together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of trips that would have sucked if we were on our own.
We were, yeah. Instead, we were sitting on that bus in Shanghai playing Neko Atsume.
Yep. There were just, you know, a part of me wishes that, you know, I had started Asians Represent with Agatha way back when I was doing academia and I could record all these trips and do stuff like that. And I was like, in the future.
I remember you filming stuff for Curiosity and Focus.
Yeah. I filmed like
when we were in China.
But it was like a sad thing because like I recorded this like vlog series that I called China for One. And it was like the saddest thing. Because I was like, I went to China alone and I don't know how to speak Chinese. Like,
well, we talked about the feeling isolated even though you're surrounded by people when you do field work. Mm-hmm. And it's, I would say, well, I can't speak for other people, but it's extremely weird when you're in Canada and you're seen to be coming from a particular culture and race or ethnicity. And then when you go to that country and you're surrounded by people who, like, you know, I knew going to Japan that I'm not going to be considered Japanese, but it's like, everyone here is like, oh, so how was it? And like, are you going to go live there? Are you going to work there? I'm like, no.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I
Steve.
tell you a secret about this?
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah, let's
I
hear
almost
it.
feel ashamed about this. So I'm Vietnamese, but I guess Chinese presenting. Is that something people have coined? I'm going to coin this right now. People assume that I'm Chinese. So
Well-
I show up to like Chinatown and places like that, and I basically carry myself like I own the fucking place. Like I have full confidence. I'm like, this is where I
Energy.
belong, and like everyone just like resonates with it. Some folks can see behind the veil and know that I'm just bullshitting it, and I avoid those people because I don't need that complexity in my life. Instead, I just carry myself with full confidence. People just kind of do what I want. And then when I went back to Vietnam, even as a teenager, I carried that same confidence, but this time I carried it as a white person. Basically, I knew I wasn't going to pass as someone who belonged to Vietnamese culture. So instead, I made myself out to be a powerful, confident white person. That's how I saw myself. And I would ask myself questions like, would X being a white person who I knew, would they act this way? And the answer was often no. So it would change my behavior and would carry myself around the streets, strut around like them. And it made the experience easier for me. And that has a whole bunch of unpacking to do. Neither positive nor negative. And I'm uninterested in unpacking it that lens. But the idea of kind of fitting in and what have you, I understand. I'm trying to connect with you, and I understand that complexity, and it's not always pleasant.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was like that too when I was in China. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just here to dig big holes in the ground.
Yeah. Do you remember when we were in the Beijing market, walking around with
Tony?
Aileen? We were with Aileen.
Which Beijing?
I don't know. I don't know if you. It's where I got that cat shirt.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But I remember at one point we were talking, and then I saw a whole bunch of people's heads pop up, and they were looking around. I'm like, I think they're looking for a white person because they hear us talking in
'cause
English.
we have very Canadian accents.
But then I think we blended in enough that it was like, where's that coming from?
Yeah, the China experience was just so interesting because it was like,
Yeah.
I think when I was there in the summers and the spring, and I could wear T-shirts, I clearly stand out because of the tattoos.
Oh yeah.
And then
Yeah,
when
me
it was
too.
like winter, I'm just like, nobody can tell because I'm so cold. Like
I cover my tattoos in Japan.
Yeah, that's like a whole other thing to talk about. Like I remember going to Beijing on my way to Guangzhou, and I had to stay in this Airbnb for 2 days, and the heat didn't work, and I didn't realize how cold Beijing would be in January. And I remember sleeping in like my full clothing plus my downfill jacket in under the covers in the bed, being so cold. Feel like I'm just gonna go to Guangzhou. I went to Guangzhou and it was like subtropical. And it was great. And I spent Chinese New Year's in China, and it was like a really cool
Oh
experience.
yeah.
It was a very lonely experience, but it was very cool. I got to see some
Yep.
friends on like the big start of New Year's. I went with a friend who's a very picky eater, and we went to get a like Peking duck. Did I ever told you the story, Steve?
Oh my god, Peking duck.
I love picky eater stories.
Okay, so I have a friend. Shout out to my friend Kim. She lives in Malta now. She's like a teacher. She's Chinese, but she eats like 5 things. She eats like shake and bake, like shake and bake chicken, crab
Delicious.
It
dinner,
is good. I love
chocolate
that.
pancakes,
Also good.
fried chicken, and chicken chow mein, but only chicken, the noodles, and the sauce, and nothing else. Like,
You should,
And-
you should
and-
So
specify.
specific.
it's very specific, and like her, like
You should clarify for any Americans that Kraft dinner is
mac and cheese. Kraft mac and cheese, yeah. And
Because KD is
Kim's like a good
Canadian
friend of
thing.
mine. Like we grew up together. We were both teachers at the Royal Ontario Museum, and Kim's family is related to my family.
Oh,
Yeah, through fraternal it's complicated.
yeah.
But I went to go stay with Kim, who was teaching in Guangzhou at the time, and we went out on New Year's. And she likes Peking duck, but she only likes the skin part. But when you order a
very
Peking duck,
specific.
they cook you the rest of the duck.
Right. Yeah.
And so on the New Year's Day, I ate a whole duck. I ate a whole duck, minus
Nice.
the
I believe
skin.
it.
I was so sick. Oh,
Can
so
imagine, but it's so good.
Eating a whole pheasant like
whole animal
creature,
I ate a
whole
whole
fowl,
animal.
not that bad. Just putting it out there.
Wow, Steve.
So
A
I always think
pheasant is
about when-
small. A duck is this big.
I meant a foul.
A
Like,
fowl.
A fowl.
like I mean,
Foul.
there have been times where I've
One
gone
fowl, please.
and bought a whole roasted chicken.
I would like one water bird. You may choose.
I mean, it's funny, but like when I was bulking for other stuff for cosplay and stuff, eating a whole rotisserie chicken in one sitting, not that bad.
It's not as big as
I
a
love-
duck.
Bulking for cosplay. That's an amazing statement. And I
What
understand
is
a
this
lot.
foul play? Is what's come up in the
Oh,
chat.
barf. Barf. Ban Andreas. No.
If you're gonna make puns like that, you're gonna have to have a feather touch.
All right. Here we go.
The thing about puns is that you just go.
I
So
like
those
that.
are
You just
real
fucking
fade
go.
off.
That's fine. That's fine. When you play the game, you have to understand this is the pushback you get. Some not everyone can appreciate your art.
That's true. Don't throw that first pun out there if you're not willing to like hear 6 more at least.
Exactly.
Sorry, my partner just got home and she's putting together the pizza. I made the dough and everything.
Cute.
New Year's.
I love pizza.
We have matching New Year's outfits. This Grogu shirt.
Is she wearing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah.
See,
Can you tell her
yeah.
that we're shouting out to her? Shout out to Sarah for being
Everyone says hi to
awesome.
you, Sarah.
I don't think we've ever met, but hi.
No, Danielle, that's not what I said. I said shout out to Sarah for being awesome.
Agatha doesn't say hi. She says,
Correction.
shout out to you for being awesome. She says,
Aw.
oh, thank you.
Nice.
There you go.
Yay.
Yeah, like so my partner and I live in like a loft, and she would just like, it's like an open space, so if we're recording, Sarah can't really talk, and so shout out to Sarah for like sitting through all of our recordings.
Being super patient and supportive.
Yeah.
And sleeping through so much video games late at night.
Oh yeah, she's a deep sleeper like me.
That's
so.
like a skill.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
So I never answered my favorite moment
Yeah, do it.
of the year,
Let's hear it.
and I think my favorite moment of the year was, I'm gonna say I have 2. No, it's a tie. I think between when we opened up our Discord community and when we won the ENnie.
Oh man.
Now,
Both good.
I think that winning the ENnie is. So I think winning the ENnie was a really big moment for me, not because we won like an award, but because of the context in which it happened.
Yes.
So I was on that weekend, because it was the same Gen Con weekend, we did Dungeons and Asians live. And we did our Crane Core episode, and that was super cool. That was our first paid gig as Asians Represent. We got paid to, play Quest live. I then had a panel, and I did this panel with, it was led by my friend Jason Anarchy, who's like a really big board game designer. If you've ever played Drinking Quest, that's Newfoundland Jam. That's him.
Newfoundland Jam.
Yeah. Emma, I think you would like his games. Shout out to Jason Anarchy. But we did a panel, and during that panel, our designer for Ross Rifles had emailed me the first draft of the finished book. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to open this up while I'm on this panel. And I'm like in the panel, and I'm like looking through my phone. And it came to like, I opened it up to one of the chapter spreads, and our designer had put a photo of a Japanese Canadian soldier from World War I as the big spread for it. And I started like crying on during this panel. Because I
Yeah.
had never seen like Asian people like in a TTRPG that I was publishing and wrote. And then literally I was like, after the panel ended, and I was like, the ENnies are happening. And I immediately tuned into the ENnies, and they were on our channel. They were on our category. and the judges were literally reading out all the nominees. And I remember Robin Laws, who was reading them out, is like, and the gold Emmy for the best podcast stays in Toronto. Asians represent, and the entire chat fucking blew up. And it was at that moment when I realized, like, all of our like hard work paid off, because like the Emmys are like, let's be honest, the Emmys are the MTV Movie Awards for TTRPGs. And it's a giant popularity contest.
MTV Awards.
That's a reference.
Yeah. Oh wow!
Does that not happen anymore?
Shout out to MTV.
The video awards do still happen.
Oh, okay.
But you can no longer get a Much Music video dance. That's the
God.
That's the cutoff.
No. Here's the thing.
Are you shitting
This is
me?
unrelated. So
okay.
You can't, but there is a place in Toronto called the Piston where they do music video dance parties. So
Right.
if quarantine ever breaks, they are unbelievable. But sorry, let's go back to being like emotional and
No,
That's also
They should
emotional.
sponsor
also
us so that
emotional.
we can go and just get hype.
This is just gonna be a
Yeah,
dance
it's-
channel. Moving on. Asians dance. New series. Asians dance.
Asians represent TikTok.
I actually have an
no.
Asians represent TikTok account. I made one.
Wait, did you?
I never posted to it. I just wanted. I
It's-
just
I
grabbed
think.
it.
Okay,
Is it all
can you
just
do the
Marla?
Doja Cat dance on it? That
I
will be
just
our
grabbed it.
first
I don't-
ever video.
We'll do a TikTok in the future. I don't understand TikTok quite yet. Although I did watch the most amazing TikTok today, and it was it was this like Asian woman. She was singing, and it was like it was posted to this Asian Facebook group. But she was like, it was like Glamorous by Fergie. And then she sang it in Mandarin. And then when she's spelling out, she was like all the
Oh my
strokes.
gosh! Yes, I just recently watched it. I was looping it.
I was
so
looping
many
it on
times.
TikTok, and it fucking blew my. But her whole thing is that if y'all are watching on TikTok and you wanna lose your mind over funny Asian shit, her TikTok, I literally have it open. It's Guga the Jing. That's
she's freaking. Also, her makeup is really good.
so it's like
she looks
so,
amazing.
So it's like spelling out lyrics, but no, I'm not gonna play it because then I don't. I feel like we'll get. Anyways,
strike.
But yeah, I think the Emmys were like a really big thing for us because, you know, I think it was a sign that we actually had a community, and I think that was really big for me. But anyways, I know, Steve, you've been taking in questions on Twitch if anybody had some, but I also have polled Twitter for questions, and I would like to answer some questions.
Yeah, let's do some Twitter questions. Some Twitch questions have come in, but I'll give us more time to kind of come in. And if you're on the chat, definitely tag myself or Daniel, Asians Rep, in chat so we can see them. I don't want to miss any questions because, you know, we just talked about this. This is all about community. This is all about being together. And the questions here are a really good chance for us to just connect. Because if you have anything burning in your mind or in your chest or in your stomach, now's a great time for it. Because we don't always get the chance to like answer questions when we do our read streams. There'll be oftentimes actually in L5R, people be like, I have this question about samurai. And I have to be in chat as a moderator and say, I can't answer that on air because that is such a complex question. But one thing I'm thankful for 2020 is that with the Discord, I can now take them after stream and say, hey, I have the energy. I will take you in chat and we can talk about it for a little bit. And I'll time box this for my own like well-being to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or what have you. And that has been a wonderful experience. It has been obviously work for me.
Yeah.
And it's not scalable. It's hard to like keep doing that as we gain more, as our platform grows.
It's why we stopped, because I've told you, I was like, Steve, this is hard on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's super in line with like our goal, which is to continue those conversations. So it's powerful. It's in the right direction. We'll have to stop it at some point in time. But while it can still happen, it's kind of a magical kind of thing here.
Sick. So now we have time for questions. Let's do like an hour, 45 minutes worth of questions. I'm gonna start with
Q&A.
I'll start with one. So Brooke Bright on Twitter asked us this one. If Dungeons into Asians questions are okay, I'd like to know, has the land of Xia always been matriarchal and ruled by an empress, or is that more of a matter of circumstance? So far, all of the leaders have been empresses that I've written, but there's only been canonically 3. We haven't really answered that because we haven't established how leadership is passed on.
Yeah. Oh no, we did.
I guess we did. We said it.
For the queen.
For the queen, we said it was like
hereditary.
Hereditary. But I think it's hereditary, but also it's a meritocracy. I think if there are like numerous like children, I don't think it's based on seniority. I think it's based on capability. At least right now, these things can kind of change, but so far it's matriarchal. There are a lot of very powerful women in Chinese history, and I was inspired by them when I wrote kind of like our first ones. So that's that question. We have one from.
Can I give a little bit of headcanon, the way I've kind of perceived it as a player here? I've always thought it as the ministers, the dukes. They've had quite a bit of power on this. And obviously the empress is chosen based on, both divine right and this meritocracy and things like that. But the dukes absolutely have a say in that. And whoever gets on the throne needs at least the majority of their support, lest they not stay on that throne for very long. So I've always imagined it as these powerful women are put in a place where they have to basically grow up very, very quickly, learn the game very, very quickly. And if they don't, they just get kind of thrown out. Mm-hmm. It's very cutthroat. It's very brutal. But it produces some amazingly powerful and sometimes cold individuals. But that was my headcanon. So like
that kind of makes sense. Hey, that's game canon now.
And for me, any society where the head position is both political and religious, like you said, like divine right or divine rule, like there's always so much going on.
Yeah. I really liked episode 4 of Dungeons and Asians. When we literally played D&D but rolled no dice, and it was just Steve and Kiana being dramatic and Amar and I playing NPCs, and it was wonderful because like I absolutely love the Dukes.
Actually, can I take this into a tangent? And I've never asked you this question. I've always wanted to. What has been your like most memorable? This is to you, Daniel, too.
Sure.
Most memorable moment in like Dungeons and Asians since I have you. Sorry, Emma. I know.
Easy.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh, mine is easy. It's when Agatha was like, "Can I be a shrimp?" That was mine. Because it was literally like I was like, you were like, we were making characters. You're like, "Yo, can I be a shrimp?" And then we were all just like, "Yup, let's figure out a way to do it." That was it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is not a Dungeons and Dragons thing. That is absolutely a Daniel thing.
That's very true.
What about? Well, I want to extend the question to you too, Steve. So while Agatha's thinking of an answer, I also want you to think of an answer. What's your favorite D&DA moment?
Agatha, you got one?
Yeah. My favorite shrimp clan. My favorite Dungeons and Asians moment is actually the first time that we got fan art.
Oh yeah,
It's not in game, but I was like, oh my gosh, there's a shrimp.
I could see that for sure.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I've kept every single piece of fan art. Like I've saved every single one, and I've noted who did it all. Like the shrimp. It's always the shrimp that's so great.
Yeah, the shrimp always looks very inhuman and shrimp like. I feel like it's progressively gotten like. In more of the art, it just looks more and more like there's just a shrimp in armor in the background. like the other two are like and then there's just a shrimp, and I love it. I'm here for it.
I love that for canon because it's like shrimp, like divine beings are what the humans think of them, not really what they are. So if that's what you think a shrimp looks like, that's what Dong Fang looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to add,
that's powerful.
Steve,
Go
what
ahead.
What is your favorite moment? Because there is a question that I'm seeing in chat that I want to answer right away, but I want you to. I want to hear your moment.
Like the obvious answer is like episode 4, just like Kiana and I just like basically having romance moment. I just rewatched all of The Last Airbender, and I realized I was doing a lot of like Fire Nation kind of like pressure on younger people kind of ideas. Lan Ning is not a teenager. She is a full-grown adult, but those same pressures still exist, and they manifest in variable ways that I'm very happy to explore. But honestly, my favorite mode in Dungeons & Agents is our microscope episode. And the reason is because I had done a little bit of collaborative world building, but never to this extent. And it set a new foundation for me. Like it reset all of my expectations of role-playing games. And my role-playing games now are so much better, having played this like mini indie RPG. And I don't stop talking about indie RPGs that make D&D richer for those who really, really enjoy D&D.
Yeah. I also really loved when we played Beak, Feather, and Bone. Also because how you reacted to it, Steve. Because you immediately were like, sick. I'm taking my home game and we're going to play this. And then you showed everyone the map and I was like, oh, this is so great.
Yep. For those who don't know, immediately after we played Beak, Feather, and Bone and Agents Represent, I took it to my home game and we did the exact same thing with players who had never listened to the podcast. They know that I'm on it, but brand new player too. And we use that almost like as a session 0 plus a little bit of play, which was truly wonderful because their session 0 of like coming into the world was concrete via the mechanics of that mini RPG.
Yeah, that was a great one. So there was a question I want to answer while we're kind of on the topic of Dungeons and Agents. And it was Nike Stim asked, how would an overthrowment be justified? Would it be she lost the heaven's favor style? Kind of a combination of that. So the Empress or whoever's in charge, we haven't established that there have been emperors. We've only established that there have been empresses. The leader of Xia has the will of the sky, which is essentially my version of the mandate of heaven, which is meant to be like a divine rule over the world or over the nation. And so I've already dropped hints in the series that Zhou Xia has lost. I've actually explicitly said it. People are questioning whether or not Zhou Xia has the will of the sky. And I am slowly setting up. Steve, do you want spoilers?
No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
You've asked me this on multiple occasions, and I've said that I'm always a fan of the journey rather than destination.
Okay, so then I won't spoil anything. But I have, if you listen to all of Dungeons & Asians, and you listen to like our Crane Core stuff and everything like that, I have set up. So basically what I want to do is with every season or every story arc of Dungeons & Asians, I want to change the tone. And moving forward, I actually want Dungeons & Agents to move into a grimdark tone.
Grimdark.
So yeah.
I have a question. Then what was it? What was it before?
So early on,
what is it currently?
Well, so currently, right now, it's like this, like sort of Xinxia high fantasy exploration is kind of what I've been going for, and then I want it to go into a military court drama, a grimdark military court drama. I want it to focus less on the world and more on a specific group of characters and the factions that they belong to. So my goal with the series right now is to narratively build up the world around you so that by the time we're into the sort of the grimdark arc, everyone kind of knows about the world and can reference it. So that's why, like, you know, the For the Queen is so important, the Beak, Feather, and Bone is so important, the microscope was so important, and everything like that. And obviously, like, behind the scenes for everyone, like, I take really, really detailed notes about everything, and all of our world notes, everyone has access to all of the world notes. The only thing that the players don't have access to are sort of my, like, the meta plots that I'm kind of weaving. I have a big spreadsheet. Agatha.
Yes, you in the back, Agatha.
Yes, you.
You know, people laugh, but it's actually very effective.
Yeah.
Oh, the other way. So, what was my question? I wonder, will we be? Maybe I should ask this off air, actually. But in terms of like court politics and stuff,
Yeah.
I also feel like it would be amazing for us to, at one point or another, use SCUP, the Sword of the Crown, the Unspeakable Power.
Done. Let's do it. Let's do it.
For that like, magic.
I think the thing about Dungeons and Asians is that we have never been tied to a game. Never been tied to a game, right? I'm like, once we're done with Quest, we're gonna move on to something different. I like Quest as a way of kind of building up what our characters are capable of. I would love for us to switch to something like Cortex Prime. But we have to find the right system. I know that Grim and Perilous are coming out with some new stuff that speaks to me. I actually had a chat with Dan Fox, and because I was consulting for Flames of Freedom, and they've got some new stuff coming out in 2021 that might work for what we're doing. Not in that it's Asian, because I think Dan has very publicly said he is not going to do an Asian product for Grim and Perilous unless he has an Asian design team. So like kudos to him for that. But they've got something cool. So I'm looking at different stuff. I also maybe will go into the OSR and use some OSR games. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Enough of Dungeons and Asians. Let's move on to other questions. So
there was a question earlier in the chat, actually.
Oh yeah.
It was from Joe asking
Kara?
if we're gonna or if you are going to do a read through on feng shui.
Oh yeah, so many people have asked about that. Yeah, I would like to do a read through of feng shui, but I don't know if I want to dedicate another 40 hours to a book. So I want to go back at it because I know Adam Ali is watching too. Like, I want to go back to Kindred of the East. I want to do feng shui. I want to do like the Oriental Adventures 3.5. I want to do there's like a Southeast Asian one that's an OSR game, Kelong. I want to do that one. I want to do Yun Sun, which is another OSR sort of Asian thing. There are so many things I want to do, but with the current format of Asians Read, it makes it really difficult. So I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do it is. I think it might be Joe Kerr, who is a different person from.
Oh yeah,
Kara.
Sorry. Correction.
So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it because I don't want to do like a one-off episode where we just kind of chat about it because I don't feel like we get into the details of it. But what I might do is be like, hey, maybe we'll do like a 5-episode series on feng shui.
Read ahead. Sort it out a little.
Pre-plan everything. The only challenging part about it is that I'm dyslexic, so it's a lot more work for me to plan everything, plus do all of the production and everything like that. So I have to figure that out. So a question from Twitter, it's Dar Jr. or Darjr on Twitter asked, what are you, and I think this is not just, maybe it is Asians Represent. No. It's for all of us. It's what are you working on for next year? What is due to be released? I know there's probably stuff you can't talk about, but I'd love to know what's in the future. So for me, I have 2 projects right now that are NDA'd, that I'm under NDA for. No, 3 projects that I'm under NDA for. One of them is for Wizards of the Coast. And 2 others are for major publishers. One is for a very well-known IP. So I'm very excited about all of them. All 3 of them will be featured on Asians Represent, and one of them I'm going to turn into an Asians Represent long form series set in the present.
Plans.
So yeah, I have 3 projects. One of them I think gets announced in February 2021. The one with Wizards comes out this quarter. I guess the beginning of 2021 comes out Q3. And then the other is coming out in the spring. But I can't say who I'm working with because I think that'll give it away. But yeah, working on 3 big things. I'm kind of scaling back my indie stuff. I am working on a campaign setting to kind of go with my Blades of the Lunar Kingdom and Denizens of Mountain and Seas zines. But that one is kind of been really slow. But that one I do through my Patreon, and it's independent of Asians Represent. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on in terms of. I think that's just publishing. Are any of you publishing anything?
So maybe not necessarily for this year. Can't commit to anything, but I am involved with the next volume of Unbreakable.
3 or 2?
Yay!
2.
Are you editing?
Yes, I'm editing. So I will not be a writer in it. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to commit to this kind of stuff. But honestly, I think there are so many new writers in here. I'm very excited to be participating as an editor. From what I've already seen, it's gonna be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So good. So
It's the only RPG book I own.
It's a good one. You should own.
It's a good one to own.
But no, it's really good. I'm really excited, and this is an amazing project. Shout outs to the entire Unbreakable team, Jazz, Jackie, all y'all, amazing.
Yeah, I think Unbreakable is going to be huge, and I know that Jackie's got like big plans. We've talked about the stuff that he has planned, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be dope. I wish I could be involved in Unbreakable, but also like I don't think it's right for me to be involved in Unbreakable anymore, at least Volume 2, because there's so many other people who deserve that platform.
I might come back to it in like additional volumes because this was my first time being published.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot through the entire process. Time did not work out. I don't have the time and the energy to go and build something new again. Mm-hmm. But with some changes to like how Unbreakable is being published and whatnot, I feel like I have even more freedom, and I feel like there'll be a new way for me to connect that will really spark something inside of me.
Yeah.
I
just saw a question come up in chat, so I guess I'm gonna alternate. Agatha and Emma, you don't have anything being published. So Emma, your dissertation.
Yeah, well, that'll happen. But I will say I have, for the first time ever, thought about how I could turn some of my archaeological stuff into either a setting or a campaign or something along those lines.
Well, I think you should. Because that actually ties into a question that Austin asked. Austin, community member, designer of Valor. Austin said, really, I'm just waiting for you to do the video where you talk about the Ainu for like 3 hours, unless that's already a thing and I missed it. We did do one on the Ainu, but I think we did a podcast episode on them. I think that Emma, we should talk about the Jomon. And do a stream on them.
Heavily connects to both the archaeology and the politics of Ainu topics. Yeah.
Oh.
You know what's really funny? Actually,
like heavily.
Yeah. I got my last book of 2020, and it's my dad's monster manual.
Cute.
I was a sensitivity reader on this one, so that came in the mail today, which is kind of funny. But yeah, Emma, I think that I 100% think you should publish, and we should collaborate on something.
Yeah. So there are 2 things, and I've said that it was always after the L5R streams when I had like 2 beers and I was feeling like feisty. I was like, I have an archaeological period that I think would be really good for a setting, like a world setting. And then after seeing some of the L5R art, I was like, people need like a basic crash course on horses and horse gear. And that's something I can provide.
That's true.
But I would need
That's
to
amazing.
be able to set up as horses for fantasy and TTRPG settings.
Yo, Agatha, did you know that Emma has been kicked in the face by a horse?
What?
Yeah, Emma has been
Yeah,
kicked
broke
in the
my
face by a horse.
skull when I was 3.
Yeah, Emma's badass.
What?
Little Emma bounced right back. I was in hospital for maybe a week, and then I was fine.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How young were you? I'm very curious.
I
She
was
said 3.
I was almost 4. I was 3 and a bit.
Okay.
And yeah, a horse got me right here, and I flew back and hit a pole. And the cracking that happened saved my brain. So I didn't even have a concussion after. It just broke my face, broke part of my skull, brain jiggled in place. Totally cool. And then I went on to do 15 years of competitive horse riding. And
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
no big deal.
So if there's ever a horse RPG that needs to be read on Asians Read, we'll get Emma.
We have a horse expert?
Yeah. Well, it was the end of one of the L5R streams. I'm like, that tack's not right. That would never work. What is happening?
That stuff makes me so happy whenever I hear it.
Those horses are too big,
There are so many concepts, cultural or otherwise. Sorry, a lot of it is cultural, the 99% of it. But people just write about it because they see it in movies and books and whatnot, and they don't realize that it ties a lot to identity. And removing a lot of what they would assume is fluff is actually removing a lot of the cultural signifiers and meaning in these things. So yeah, fucking write more about horses, please.
Hell yeah. I think, Emma, that you should do a Twitter thread and just Steve style.
I think it's going to be big, though, because part of it is what historical breeds of horses look like. Guess what?
Okay,
Most of them
so
are
I've had,
ponies.
Just pick one. Pick the horse in Lord of the Rings, Shadowfax.
Yeah.
Just pick Shadowfax and just write about Shadowfax. That's how you do this.
Yeah. And getting into regional and cultural tack, saddles and bridles and all of that is a whole other thing.
Okay, so I've got an idea, something that I've been working on that could definitely involve this horse thing if you are interested.
This horse
thing.
So we'll talk after. Because I don't want to.
But I do.
I don't want to put it out in the world yet.
Yeah.
Should we keep going with the questions?
Yeah, I want to keep going because I've got 6 more questions on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
Oh damn, yeah, we gotta.
Okay, this one's easy. If you could Thanos snap all TTRPG honor systems out of existence and replace them, what would you choose?
If I could Thanos.
If you could just get rid of honor and replace it with another thing, what would it be? In my mind, my first thing was either influence is probably the one I would pick. Kind of similar to what they do in Masks.
Yeah. It's tough for me because I live in a world where the white lens of honor is so important to my upbringing that I can't currently picture a world where we just get to get rid of it.
I think you could I think you could reword it to. I think the question, and this was by Carter, who is on our server as well. I think the question is more of honor is almost always used for Asian stuff. So honor is really loaded right now in that people associate with Asian culture.
Yeah.
So what would you replace that with to kind of decouple the two? And I feel loyalty might be one, might be a way to do it. Reputation could be another. But maybe it's not an easy question.
For me, it's a pretty complex question.
Yeah. Andreas said chivalry and fealty. The problem with chivalry is that it's a code of conduct rather than... it's just a code of conduct. So chivalry and honor aren't quite the same.
So at a high level, honor to me is a level of sacredness. It's almost it's not divine, but it is outside of kind of
well, it's the bond of mutual respect.
Yeah, in that frame, it's kind of surpasses just money and other material things. Like there is a sacredness to it that I personally connect with.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a good English word to replace it, which I've never thought about. I will think about this more now that I've seen this question.
And maybe this is this is a podcast episode where we discuss how we would replace honor, or if it is easily replaceable. Episode idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
I never thought about it. Oh boy.
Can honor be replaced? Do any of you have any ideas, or do we want to move on? Because
Getting
maybe
rid of honor?
yeah, just
I
get rid of it
know.
and not replace it.
Just
No,
get
let's
rid
move-
of it.
Yeah, just get rid of it. Okay, I think this is more of a question for me, but _Hurley_ on Twitter asked, how do you decide where to put new shows, content, podcast stream, YouTube, etc.? What things do you take into consideration when coming up with new ideas?
Yeah, creative officer.
I guess that's a question for me. So the podcast is home to Dungeons and Agents in audio format, Asians Read Caricature, and our standard Asians Represent podcast. The Asians Represent podcast right now is kind of, the way I see it, is kind of a show where we handle like those like high level topics. So like, how do you get rid of honor? Or maybe like, what are our thoughts on L5R in general? So like, we need to do an episode where we kind of reflect on L5R, and that will all go in the podcast. On YouTube, we are kind of transitioning the YouTube channel into a way for us to kind of handle like fast discourse. So for instance, the wrap up is our way of responding to what's happening in the industry at the time. So recently there was a blog post that came out that was very clickbaity and said session 0 is a scam. I don't want to draw traffic to it or anything like that. But it was a clickbaity article, and the author was like, clickbait or not, I'm glad I generated conversation. That happened, and it was fast. So the wrap-up is all about talking about what happened that week. Fragmites in our Twitch chat just said, like, I love the Asians Rep episode where we talked about wuxia with Yilin. That's the perfect example of what the podcast is, and it's like deep educational topics. So when Emma and I talk about the Jomon of Japan and the Ainu, that's a podcast thing. That's never going to go on the stream. I think the YouTube stuff and the stream stuff is really for us to be visible. It's really for us to engage with like visual material. So when we're doing the reading stuff, it's nice having the book in front of us to go through the book and point things out, because that's very difficult to do on just a podcast. The wrap up, again, fast news. That's what we're doing that for. So yeah, that's the answer to that one. Silver Sigfran had 2 questions. What's your favorite 5e D&D content from a thematic standing, and how authors handle their subject matter? What are your favorite RPGs beyond 5th edition D&D? And I think it kind of goes into, do you have a rubric or framework you use to evaluate setting material? What kinds of questions should I ask myself when looking at material I use at my own table? So let's start with the first one. And this is for everybody. And Emma can't answer this because Emma owns a 5th edition book. What are your favorite 5e D&D content from a thematic standing, and how the authors handle their subject matter? My favorite 5th edition adjacent, I'm not going to say it's specifically for 5th edition, but I will say my favorite piece of content that I read this year is still Kidnap the Archpriest.
You recommended that one.
I've recommended it a lot. It is system agnostic. There are no stats, so this is kind of an easy cop-out answer. But it's still my favorite from a thematic standing because it is a toolkit. I love toolkits. This is what I'm most attracted to in the OSR. It's like, I love toolkits. I don't like being told what I have to do in the story. I like being told what I can do, or I like being inspired by things. And Kidnap the Archpriest basically presents the players with the task of kidnapping a heretic for like the religious dictator of a land. It tells you how you can reskin it for modern, sci-fi, low fantasy, high fantasy, everything. It gives you a map of the city, a 24-hour schedule for each of the key NPCs. And for all the NPCs, it kind of just tells you this is their demeanor, these are their motivations, this is what they want to do, and these are their entanglements. And it just says go nuts. And I love that kind of content. I love how they tell you how you could reskin it to meet any setting. And I really love how there is no emphasis on violence, nor is there an emphasis on stealth or diplomacy. They really say whatever you want to do, and that's what I look for most. Steve, Emma, Agatha. This is specifically 5th edition, and I guess Unbreakable. I love Unbreakable. Go buy it, unbreakablерpg.com.
My favorite piece of 5e is from old D&D. It's from like a past. It's Keith Baker's Warforged. I think Warforged did so much for D&D and like the stories you can tell, because Warforged are creatures who are built in a laboratory. They're robot creatures. They don't have a biological mother or father. They're built in a lab. They are very young, and depending on the setting, they could be up to 3 years old max, or up to 20-year-olds max, maybe 30 years. Built for war. They're machines that are built for war, but they're fully sentient. There are mechanics where they have organic parts and whatnot, but they're completely made in a lab. And after the war is over, the story becomes not what the war is, but what you do after your purpose is complete. Regardless of how the war ended, you are now just a person who has to find your own meaning. And I felt that was deeper than anything Wizards of the Coast has ever published since.
That's because Eberron is really cool.
That was Keith Baker who entered a contest for Wizards of the Coast, won their contest, and was published as their new setting. And all the love and respect for Keith Baker, and I see how Wizards of the Coast is treating the IP. And that's all I'll say on that.
Did I show you the Tasha's book they sent me?
This is very loaded. No, you didn't, but it's very loaded.
They sent me this.
What is
Whoa.
this?
So
That's not a book.
I forgot to bring this out. So Wizards of the Coast sent me this. This is my influencer package. It opens up and it's got like a thank you message.
Oh,
and
yeah,
embedded
this-
here
This monstrosity.
is a Swarovski D20.
Oh my god!
Sir, you're fucking
I'm not-
shitting me.
Beautiful, but
Swarovski.
like,
It's a Swarovski
what?
D20. It's a legit. It's an official Swarovski D20. But
How dare you not bring this up and or roll it on camera before?
I tweeted it, but there's things I
Sorry,
couldn't tweet in
Twitter.
here. So this thing, this is it. This thing opens up. So like this comes off, and there's more. And
Suddenly we've become an
so they sent me
unboxing
like
stream.
beans of holding coffee.
Ooh.
They sent me like a D20 like tumbler. It's really nice. It's metal.
Wait, is it D20? Yo, hold it up
Well,
to the camera.
it's all the polyhedral dice.
Oh, nice.
nice.
Oh, that's
They
sick.
sent me D&D branded Stance socks. These are nice socks.
Dance socks?
Stance. They sent me a code for a mount in the Neverwinter MMO. Like I'm gonna play that. A Swarovski
Yo,
fabric
why are you hating?
sticker.
I used to play it.
Oh, do you want this code? I'll give you the code.
No, I don't play anymore.
But the thing that I hadn't shown because I couldn't really show it on social media, is so they sent me the Tasha's book, the special edition one, but they embossed my name on the corner.
Yo.
But I felt weird about it because like
Heck.
it's a really nice book. Like there's the Baba Yaga's house and everything, but like I feel really weird about it because like this book has some neat stuff in it, but there's also some stuff that kind of represents that Wizards is kind of taking shortcuts with what they're doing right now. so that's why I didn't like tweet about this. But yeah, they sent me a box full of cool stuff. And this is the first time that I've shared this. So yeah. On that 5e question, sorry.
Swarovski D20.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Roll it.
Yeah,
roll
see what
it.
happens.
Yeah, roll the first one on stream. What do you get?
I gotta
want
get
it.
it. I gotta get it out of here.
I need
Hold
you to describe to us what it feels like.
It's heavy. It's
What does
heavy.
it sound like when it rolls?
It's heavy. It makes me feel powerful.
Ugh. I'm out.
My,
Good night.
My only
Yeah.
precious.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'll roll it. An 18.
Hey. That's a Swarovski 18.
Swarovski 18. Forever
thank
gonna
you.
call me out of my shit. And I appreciate that. But yeah, I have this like thing. I was gonna turn it into a cat box, but then Marla is too fat for it.
Makes sense.
She'd take up all of that box.
She'd take up all of this box. But yeah, I kind of fucked off to get this. Did we all answer the question about 5e stuff? I know Steve
Yeah,
was
I
thinking
don't
wrong.
know. I have no answer.
That's
I don't
fine.
know anything about D&D.
I don't know if I know enough 5e.
Emma just says Unbreakable. Go buy Unbreakable.
Go buy Unbreakable. I've worked on a few cultural consultancies and sensitivity reads for 5e stuff, but like, I'm not under NDAs, but I don't know what to say.
One of the ones that you and I worked on together used some L5R art, and we would not
It
have
did.
caught it if we hadn't read L5R. And I
I
was like,
know L5 art now.
and I never thought in my entire career that I'd write, do you have the rights to use this L5R art? Because that's the Crab Clan.
You knew exactly who it was.
I knew who the
Your
character
favorite,
was
your
too.
favorite clan. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question
But
that
like besides that, I really like the project, so
yeah, the
it's,
project's cool.
it's going well.
So Emma, this is a question that I think you'll have a very interesting answer for. And it's, do you have a rubric or framework that you use when you evaluate setting material? And I say evaluate in the sense of whether you like it or not. It doesn't have to be evaluated in a professional manner. It's like, what gets you to like a fantasy setting? I'll say my answer first, because I've said it really like a lot on the L5R stream. I like it when the world has an internal consistency. I like when the cultural indicators that you include in your world building make sense with respect to like the geography. So if you say people are going to eat rice in this world and they produce rice in this world, well, your world better have a monsoon climate. I'm a nerd like that. Or if you say that, you know, these people are master blacksmiths and they forge beautiful weapons, well, you better have mines in it. If you say that they eat certain foods, well, you best believe that the flora and fauna of the world better match what they are producing. For world histories, I like it when people include like a rich history in their world, one that makes sense. I prefer smaller campaign settings over larger ones because smaller campaign settings are more manageable for creators. I like quality over quantity when it comes to my world building, which is why in Xia I haven't gone outside the borders. Now, how about the rest of you?
I have a very strict follow your nose rubric, which is to say that I love new content. I will engage with it. But as soon as I smell something where I'm like, I don't know if I'm 100% on board, I'll hunt that smell. I'll look into it and I'll explore my own feelings and why that smell was so offensive to me. And sometimes it turns out that, it's something else I need to unpack. But other times it turns out to be something I'm not willing to engage with in full. And then I make a choice from there. Is this like Forgotten Realms where I can't really change it? Is this a home game where I can have a really meaningful conversation around, hey, I feel discomfort around how you've represented this cultural signifier. So this is probably an unsatisfying answer, but I follow my nose and I just kind of go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if there's no flow, then that's an indicator that the world doesn't work.
And if something seems wrong, it's probably because it is. But we don't always have like the words or the concepts to work through it. And that's where you start doing some research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also no like expiry date on that feeling either, which is something I had to come to understand. Just because it made me uncomfortable on day 1 and I couldn't express it doesn't mean I shouldn't express it on day 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of gets reinforced. You're like, no, I definitely feel weird about this.
So I feel this kind of ties into the next question. I want to hear Agatha's answer too, but I have an old campaign setting that I used to use at work, and it's 60,000 words. And I wonder if I want to read it in like on stream or something and kind of critique my old work. Because I definitely think it's not very good now. But anyways, Agatha, what about you? What do you look for?
When I read content?
Or when you look at like a setting, like a campaign setting or anything like that, what kind of draws you in?
I think this is a very interesting question for me because the games that I play mostly don't come with a prepackaged setting because I play a lot of indie games, which is not to say that indie games don't have settings. The kinds of like story games that I play don't have that as much.
So
but in terms,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So then I'll change the question then. When you're playing a story game and you are crafting a world, what gets you excited at the table when you're crafting a world with other people? What are things that you like to put into a world?
Well, that's definitely a very different thing. I think from like looking at content and being like, oh, do I like this part of it? Do I like that part of it? Because in terms of creating a backstory, what is intriguing is always conflict. But of course, that's different from settings.
No, I mean, a setting without conflict is a setting without change.
Yes. And it's really different, I guess, in terms of like what I like or what I don't like, because a lot of times when you're coming up with things together at the table, there's consent.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's implicit or explicit consent that we want this in there because we're both coming up with it and we can see each other's faces if we're like, no, or if we're like, yes, then you know that we both want this versus if you're reading it, it's very obviously a one-sided thing. Like you have to choose to be like, oh, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this, or if you're like, yes, I'm down with it, right? Like it's just a very different process.
Cool. So I know we have some Twitch questions, and we have one more Twitter question. So I want to go like rapid fire. Okay.
Yeah.
So
lightning round.
And I think this question is more for Steve and I. What has surprised you the most about building your online community? This is for the Discord.
It's been a very positive experience for me.
Yeah.
It's been great. I loved it. There were the amount of working with people to mediate tension was surprising to me. I knew it was going to happen, but I wasn't 100% prepared for the amount of labor it would require. But once I began doing the work, I realized that it was like any of the other work I'm more or less used to. So it was surprising kind of in a twofold way.
Yeah, I would say one, I think how fast it grew. I think what surprised me most is that we had to actually limit membership. I never thought we'd get to that point where, more people would want to be in the Discord than we could handle. And I'm really happy that we have moderators like you, Emma, and admin like Agatha, who kind of joined us later and like kind of helped us grow the community. So yeah, I would say like the growth surprised me. Okay, so we've got some Twitch questions, right, Steve?
Yep. So
Let's
if
do
I
this.
scroll up, I'm sorry, I should have saved these.
I thought you were saving them.
Well, while you're looking, I will say in a video that we've had every time we've opened up new membership and advertised it, a lot of people then feel the pressure to leave if they've been lurking on our Discord. And we should say publicly, very loudly, you don't have to leave if you're lurking.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely. There, I know for a
totally
fact.
allowed to be there. Just watch and read, and you know, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to be active to be part of the community. So, you know, within your own comfort levels, don't leave just because we say membership is limited. We'll get more mods. It will keep going if people want it.
Did Emma just become the alpha mod?
Yep.
I'm the only mod here. The rest of you are admin, aren't you?
No, I mean
Yeah.
like take that, Drew.
No,
I
no,
love
no, no,
Drew.
no.
I love Drew so much.
Yeah.
No, I think that, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think there are a lot of people who just lurk and kind of read and just come to the Discord to learn. And that is 100% okay. And I know
Yeah.
that Steve, big ups to you. You have been working hard to kind of make the Discord more manageable for people. So at the end of the stream, as usual, we'll throw a Discord link into the chat. If you want to get an invite to the server, the only way to do it is by tuning in live.
So
Or
as
if
far
we
as
put
Twitch,
a call out.
as far as Twitch questions go, we've answered a lot of them kind of as they came up. We had a question about Dungeons and Asians and justifying the throw of the Empress or whoever's in power. I think we kind of touched on
Yeah,
that.
I touched on that one.
Now, we talked about another Thanos snapping question around the Bushido system in L5R, but I think we've kind of touched on the complexity around that kind of question.
And my short answer is get rid of Bushido.
Get rid of Bushido because
Just
of the
don't do it.
because of the historical
stop.
context in which Bushido enters the modern zeitgeist. Like, just take it out.
But otherwise, I think we are all caught up on our mailbag / Q&A chat stream here.
Mailbag.
There was. I am going to say there was a heavier question about how you handle burnout in TTRPG.
Oh,
spaces.
yes.
Thank you for that. Yes, I missed that.
That's a big one,
I
though.
handle burnout in a very unhealthy way.
That sounds like a wrap up episode.
Emma. Whoa.
Whoa.
Daniel, can you
Wow.
handle that episode where we talk about burnout?
No, because if it's gonna feel like an attack on me. So
Will you feel like you're attacking yourself if you were to
yeah,
talk
I'm fine
about it?
attacking myself though. I'm totally okay with that. Like
That's
I
so
mean,
sad.
no, I don't think it's
It's supposed
sad
to be
because,
constructive.
because it's constructive. It's what at work we call feed forward.
All right.
Anyways,
Either way,
I
that sounds like a big topic that needs more space.
handling burnout is something that I know I don't do well. Like I am very, very transparent about the fact that I am a workaholic.
Can't get enough workahol.
Yeah, can't get enough of that workahol. No, I'm a workaholic because like I'm really passionate about things and I have a really hard time saying no. For me, I am really, I guess to answer the same, we will do a wrap up on this or a podcast. I think we should do a podcast episode on that because I think it'll be longer. But for me, since I do so much in the TTRPG space, and I have a full-time job, I think a big thing for me and a big thing that changed my mindset was that I am only taking on projects that really like light a fire in my heart. And I have stopped taking on projects that I just don't give a fuck about. And I think the first time I did that was actually I said no to Wizards of the Coast. They actually approached me and were like, "Hey, we're putting out another hardcover. We want you to write on it." And I struggled. Like people in the server know that I was very public about my struggles with saying yes to them. And I ended up saying no because I was like, A, this project will not let me introduce more Asian themes into D&D. And B, I want to spend more time with my partner. And this was in November. And so I started saying no more to projects. So yeah, that's how I handle burnout. With Asians Represent, I know one of the things that we're going to try to do is we're going to try to offload some of the production off of me. in the future. So like, for instance, like hopefully 2021, like Amar will do all of the production and streaming for Critical Read Al-Qadim, so I don't have to be there. And so I could just focus on Caratur and the wrap up. We'll probably get someone to edit the podcast in the future. But all of that happens after we set up the Patreon. So yeah, I have a question for all of you, and it's kind of like a 2-part question. What was one thing that you did in 2020 related to gaming that scared you? And what is one thing?
All of it?
Yeah, well, that's the perfect answer. That is the perfect answer. And,
yeah, that's legit.
And what is one thing that you want to try doing in 2021? So for me, I'll start. The thing that I did in 2020 that scared me was I picked up a paintbrush after not painting for like over 10 years. And I picked up a paintbrush and I started painting, and I decided to share what I was doing online. And I just became fucking obsessed with Warhammer. That shit's plastic crack. My God. But that was the thing that was scary for me. It was like trying something that was not in my wheelhouse and joining other online communities as like a fan. In 2021, a couple things that I want to do in 2021. On Asians Represent, I want to do a long-term espionage series, like a supernatural espionage series. And there are 2 people that I want to have on the podcast. The first one is Appa from Kim's Convenience. I want to talk to him about Star Wars. And the other is Dante Basco. I want to play a game with Dante Basco. So that's it for me. Those are my that's what I did in 2020 that scared me, and that's what I want to try to accomplish in 2021. How about the rest of you? Emma said playing games in 2020,
which is fair.
which is totally fair.
Oh, Emma, did you want to?
Yeah, what's your 2021 thing, Emma?
Yeah.
I could, yeah. So I thought for a long time about whether I should do the L5R thing or join the Discord or become a moderator or play a game. And then I just decided, you know what? F it.
Yeah. And not many
Nice.
people can say their first TTRPG experience was a gig. You got
Yeah.
paid to do
Yeah.
it.
It was a
Gig.
stream, yeah. So never streamed before at all. So this was cool, and now it's a part of my life, and I appreciate it. So for 2021, other than becoming a doctor of archaeology, not a life-saving doctor, I really want to work on making what I started this year into an actual TTRPG thing. Because I've started a notebook and doing some drawings and writing stuff down, but I'd like to actually share that. So like, everyone look out. I'm probably going to throw things at you and be like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this so much.
I have things. Tell me stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. Steve,
So look-
Agatha? Oh, sorry.
Potentially for a Japan related thing that isn't samurai, honor, or bushido.
That's how you get the sales.
That's amazing. What a pitch.
You
gotta-
know Japan, but without samurai? What?
I just kind of wanted to be this is not the Japan you know. Like,
Ooh. Oh, that's
Not
a
the
really good tagline.
Not the Japan you know. It will
Is-
sell.
that's-
Will sell.
Yeah.
Good.
it's
Ah.
like archaeology.
It's just
It's
archaeology.
archaeology.
Drop the mic, archaeology.
Agatha,
Okay.
you want to go next?
Agatha, Steve?
Yeah. Yeah, I can go. The scariest thing that I did this year was finally make a Twitter account.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I migrated
Twitter's freaking terrifying.
into the current century. I just felt like such a wow, learning new technology is also hard even if you're not like like even if you're not old, like my parents' generation, I still sometimes I'm just like, oh, this is. I gotta learn how people talk to each other on this new platform.
Yeah. What
Because
is this
so many
discourse?
people were asking like, yo, what's Agatha on Twitter? What's Agatha on Twitter? And now I can say Mighty Shrimp with 2 Y's.
Measure with 2
Yeah.
Y's. Yeah, so that was scary. And is much less scary now. And for 2021, I want to see if we can get our masks thing off the ground.
See that thing that you and I talked about?
Yeah, and also
yeah.
I want a game of Balik Bayan on our stream. I want Jamie to run it for us. Jamie, I haven't messaged you yet, but I will message you.
Boom, you're in charge of that. Let's do it.
It's out in the world now.
It's out in the world.
We need like Asian, like actually Roll20 they did like an all Asian like cyberpunk. Well, they did Balik Bayan actually.
Yeah.
But I think I want to do it too
because I
love that aesthetic.
Roll20 is a sponsor of this show, so let's do it. So Steve,
yo, where's Adam Ali? We need to the ad read.
No. They don't sponsor the wrap up. They don't sponsor the wrap up.
True. Okay, Steve.
The scariest thing that I did this year in tabletop RPG space was engage with the people who had very negative things to say about Oriental Adventures in the Asians Read stream. It was very scary to engage with both the video content, the tweet content, but also the Photoshop content of our images. That was very difficult and a trying time for me, which I've since moved past. I have, as part of my coping mechanism, I've saved a lot of artifacts and kept them on like a local hard drive as just like my overcoming of these obstacles. I now have these things, these trophies, if you call them, and now store them away and I never look at them because I'm past that. And I'm very happy I've done that. For 2021, my goal is to play more Asian characters in streamed RPGs, but a hot Asian mass presenting person. Fuck yeah. I had so much fun, Daniel, playing hot Asian boys.
That was great. Does it roll?
on how it rolls and does it roll. And we just played like some fucking hot Asian boys in Prime of the Frost Maiden. And I was like, I want more of that. So that's my goal for 2021. I want to bring more spiced streams.
Speaking of spice, look at this photo I have. It's you, Steve, when you came to get your Eni.
Oh yeah.
That's me getting my Eni with the mask on. We make sure we stay safe.
Social distancing. I saw Agatha.
Yeah,
I saw
spicy
Agatha.
and safe.
Yes.
Well, it's past our 2-hour mark.
Yeah.
I wanna thank all of you in the chat, watching on YouTube, in our Discord community, and even the haters. I want to thank all of you too.
Shout out to the haters.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna taint.
Yeah. But I thought you said haters gonna taint, and I was like, we got the wall for that. Crab Clan.
Taint.
I want to thank all of you for tuning into all of our content. I want to thank all of the longtime listeners who have been following since Agatha and I were recording at my dining room table, to those of you who just joined us now. I know that there's like one member like Joe, Kara, Coronograph, joined because John was like, I'm going to be on this thing, you should watch. And that's how Joe got into us. And I'm so happy for all the friendships that I've cultivated and all of the people that I've interacted with, and all of the people that we as a group have been able to positively influence. Look, it's 2021 in less than 3 hours. Nothing's gonna really change. The world isn't going to magically be better. The inequality in the world isn't going to disappear, but we're still here and we're still trying to make the world a better place. And I hope that all of you folks will stay with us on that journey. 2021 is going to be a dope year for Asians Represent, and thanks for being with us this entire time.
Thanks for playing games. with
Thanks for
me.
playing games. Bye, everyone.
I love you all. Thank you so
Bye.
much.